that's another like egoless thing that I always have to remind myself is, what is the goal? It's more important to achieve your goal than it is to achieve your ego's goal. The biggest thing that I keep working on is detaching from ego. Ego would have said I needed to win that, 30 plus race, right? Which I knew I was capable of, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was not to win. The goal was to qualify. This whole concept around conquering adversity really reminds me of, which I've been talking about. It's so funny. In like every single podcast, adversity, the word has popped up for me because that's where happiness is discovered, is on the other side of adversity. That's where the word that comes to my mind is what is up? Another episode of the Hauser podcast. That was a funny, that wasn't actually a nickname that was given me. That was just like a joke that some people would say sometimes. Hauser just sounds so funny. I'm going to talk about my last week. It's like a lot of it's going to be dirt biking just because it's like a fun endeavor of mine. So this last weekend, we went to Ohio for a race. This is the last of the regions that I'm qualifying for the nationals this year. So, you have to qualify. Basically, there's these area qualifiers, as I've talked about before. And if you get within the top 9 in one of these area qualifiers, then you qualify for that region, which is a regional. And then if you get top 6 at the regional, you qualify for nationals. So this was the mid-east region, which is basically like everything Ohio and west to maybe like right around Illinois. So that like subset of the United States, it's called the Mid-East region. I already qualified in the Southeast region and the Northeast region. So this is my third and final region that I'm giving myself as an opportunity to qualify. So my mom and I wake up at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning. Not wake up. We woke up earlier than that. We left my house at 5 a.m. In Wayne, PA, and we drove our merry way to Ohio. And we made amazing time because, as you can imagine, 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning, almost nobody's on the roads. It was surprisingly really relaxing. Just the rolling hills of western Pennsylvania into Ohio, the beautiful farmland. It just felt like, even though it was a 6-hour drive, it just felt so relaxing because of the scenery. I think a big lesson I've learned recently is 6 hours driving in beautiful scenery without traffic is tremendously less stressful than 6 hours driving in an urban area in massive traffic, even if the distance is half as far. A 6-hour trip and twice the traffic is just not fun, for me at least. I don't think most people like traffic because it's out of your control. So we had a relaxing drive. It was a beautiful kind of drive out there, and we stopped, on the way to this track, which is called Chillytown MX Motocross. And on the way there, we stopped at this random middle of nowhere Ohio town at a track that's called Honda Hills. So we got there around noon. So we pulled up there at noon, probably closer to 11 a.m., 11:30. Pulled up, unloaded the bikes, and I did maybe 4 practice sessions just to kind of get my muscles moving and ready for Sunday's race, which is at a different track. Pulled my bike out. It was on the way there. It was downpouring the entire way. So I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be a mud fest. It's going to be terrible in Ohio. It's pouring rain. And as soon as we crossed the border into Ohio, I swear to you, it was like a light switch. No rain at all. The storm was moving from west to east. And moving pretty quickly. So we were actually driving through the storm And for some reason, the storm missed the specific areas that we were riding in Ohio. So when I pulled up to this track, it was like, 15 miles after the rain stopped. And I'm thinking, okay, this rainstorm definitely passed by this area. Turns out it didn't even hit the area. So the track was perfectly fine. Never rode this track before. Track was absolutely awesome. Got dialed in, just kind of took it slow. And then my last moto, my last practice session at this track on Saturday, I went all out and I, put everything together. I call it piecing all the pieces together, right? I tried to piece everything together, really get myself at that full sprint pace for the next day, which is Sunday, so I can come into Sunday really feeling completely dialed in. And when I did that, it's very funny, like what happens at these local tracks. It's so funny. Like if I go to like a local track, most times I'm the fastest person there, right? If I go to like a national qualifier, I am never the fastest person there. It's just, there's such a wide spectrum of, competitiveness in the sport of dirt biking. Like 99% of local tracks, someone at my skill level will be the fastest person them. And then the 1% of tracks that have these big qualifiers, I'm a nobody, right? So it's just like this polarizing experience where you just have to have no ego. You have to be completely okay with just being the best some days and being nobody on other days. And I love that. It's so cleansing for me because it's like, it's ego, right? And a lot of this I relate to like martial arts, right? Is like, a lot of the principles of, being smart, being wise rather than overly competitive and injuring yourself. And, it's just always this balance of knowing when to fully exert yourself and knowing when to kind of preserve energy and keep the main thing the main thing. I sound like Jalen Hurts because that's what he always says. But the main thing, and this is what my riding coach always reminds me to do, is, the main thing is to qualify, right? So, at this race that I was at this weekend on Sunday, which I'll get into in a second, the number one goal was to get ninth place or better in my two classes, right? Which is the 30 plus class open and the 25 plus open class. And it doesn't matter if I get eighth. It doesn't matter if I get sixth. It doesn't matter if I get first. It doesn't matter. They take the top 9. The top 9 qualify for the regional. Okay. So that's another egoless thing that I always have to remind myself is, what is the goal? Like when I go out to compete, what is the goal, right? And am I doing anything that could jeopardize my goal, right? Let's say I did go for first place at this race, which by the way, in the one class that I raced 30 plus, I could have won. I mean, I beat the person who won that class straight up in my second 25 plus moto, in my second 25 plus race, which again, I'll get into in a second. But I didn't need to. All I needed to do was get ninth place. So I was running fifth place in my second race, and I just toned it down, flowed around the track, didn't make one mistake. And that's more important. It's more important to achieve your goal than it is to achieve your ego's goal, right? And it's just such an important lesson. So Saturday goes well. It's always funny when you go to these local tracks, somebody's like the local track king, right? So, I go out, I do my heater, as we call it. I do my really fast, moto, and it intimidates, this kid who's like the local track hero. And I get up behind him, and you can tell he starts revving his bike real loud. He doesn't want to let me pass him. And this kid gets like so kind of like emotionally, just jacked up. He slams on his freaking brakes in front of me in a corner, and my front wheel slams into his rear wheel. And I have to drop my bike and jump over my bike because my bike went to a complete stop. But I'm used to it, and that's like what sometimes people do when some no-name comes out of nowhere and it jeopardizes their ego as the track king, So then we get back to the hotel. which is in Columbus, Ohio. And we wake up at like 5:30 a.m. I have to get to the track. The internet system is down at the track when I get there. I have to sign up. I have to get my lap time machine, which is called a transponder. The internet's down. I stand there like a doofus in line for 40 minutes. They couldn't get me a transponder. You need a transponder to race. So I had this whole plan. I've never ridden this track before. I showed up Sunday morning to this new track, the Chilitown track. I have never ridden at this track in my entire life. So I'm standing in line and I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to miss practice. They always have a pre-race practice. If I don't get to practice this track this morning, I'm going to enter my race not even knowing what the jumps are on this track, like where the corners are on this track. So I'm getting scared, like my heart rate's increasing. And then finally the internet turns on, and I kid you not, we speed over to get a parking spot. We unload all my stuff. I get my gear on, and the second I get my final piece of gear on to get on the bike, everyone in my practice takes off, and I'm still in the parking lot, right? So almost missed my first practice. I get out on the track. I'm like the last person to get on the track, and I still made my entire first practice. So, sigh of relief. Then I was the fifth practice. So I had a 3 practice break between my first and fifth practice. Gathered my thoughts, went out to my fifth practice, learned the track. This track had 200 plus foot long monster jumps. I am a jumper. If there are big jumps at a track, that's always been one of my strengths on a dirt bike is I will jump the biggest jumps on any track. It's always a differentiator of mine. I don't know why. It's just something I had in me as a kid. So yeah, my third lap on the first open practice, I freaking boot this 110 foot long step down triple, and I come up short, and oh my God, my suspension bottoms out. It was so painful. My wrist extends. It's just like the highest impact landing of like almost any track I've ridden at. It was just insane how high impact this jump was. They had another really big quad, which is where you jump from one lip to a fourth lip, right? So that was another 100 plus foot jump that, almost nobody was doing in my class. So I come in, I'm trying to learn these jumps on the fly. And then I enter my first moto. I'm the first race of the entire weekend when they released the race order, 25 plus. And again, they take top 9. Okay. There's 30 people signed up for 25 plus at this, local area qualifier. I kid you not. Like 25 of these 30 racers were all pros, like legitimate, like pro racers. It was the most stacked, like 25 plus gate I've ever experienced at a local qualifier ever. So my first race got a decent start. Kind of just hovered around, the 10th place mark. I was planning on passing someone to get 9th place on the last lap. I couldn't do it. So I finished 10th place. So I am right on the brink. My second moto, I get 10th place again in my open 450 class. And then my last moto, 30 plus, I walk away with I believe a 5th. And so I'm right on the bubble on these first 2 classes. So I enter my second motos. And this is what happened. So on my second race of the entire Sunday races, my rear brake blows out in the middle of the race. Okay, so I have 2 laps to go. I'm in 10th place. I'm planning, I could have passed for 8th place. And my freaking rear brake completely blows out on my bike in the middle of the race. I mean, I could slam my rear brake as hard as I could with my foot. Nothing, right? What happened was a bolt came loose on it. Yeah. So then I had to go back to my trailer. I had to call my dad because he's extremely mechanically inclined, and he talks me through how to bleed a rear brake. I've never personally done it before. So I'm bleeding the rear brake. I'm letting all the air out of the line. And then voila, we get it fixed with literally like maybe 5 minutes before my third race of the first set of races. I'm dripping sweat. You know, it's always something, man. That's why you always got to be prepared for your plan to have a wrench thrown in it. And based on what happened a few weeks ago from my other qualifier down in North Carolina, I was very prepared for, you know, things to not go as expected. So thankfully this time mentally I was ready for things to not go to plan. And when things didn't go to plan, I wasn't surprised, and I was really happy about that. That was a big wisdom lesson, another wisdom lesson. It's funny how sports teach you about life so much. Don't wrap yourself up in some perfect plan and everything that you do. Like, also be present in the moment and be welcoming of the things that pop up, and attack them with positivity and enthusiasm, because, you know, the only thing that exists in our life is the present moment, right? So to be pissed at the present moment is to be pissed at life. So I, fixed my rear brake, go out for my next race, 5th place, come back. I'm like, dude, I got to pull something out of my ass for this 25 plus class. Everyone in this class is a pro. For me to get 7th place, or for me to get 9th place in that class, it's going to take everything I've got, everything, right? So we get onto the gate, on the starting gate for the second race. I'm thinking to myself, I did not drive all the way to Ohio to not qualify for this Open 25 class. I'm on the gate and I'm like, screw it. I've been putting in my time. I've been preparing. My fitness, my cardio is on track. I'm gonna give it everything I have. And start comes. I'm in like 12th place. I'm like, oh shit, I need to pass 5 people at least to have a chance of averaging at 9th place for this, because I got 10th in the first race. And they take the average of your first and second race to come up with your overall score. So I'm like, I need at least 7th to safely get in, right? So 10 plus 7 divided by 2 puts me right around that 8th or 9th place mark. So I pass one person. I pass another person. I pass another person. Then the 2 people in front of me, I'm like, all right, I got to turn it up even more if I want to pass these people. So I go into a whole different stratosphere in my mind for me, which was really hard. I passed my way up to 7th place, and I'm like, I didn't even know that I was in 7th at the time. I thought I was probably in 9th, and just kept my head down. There was someone right behind me trying to pass me back the whole time. Blocked their lines and stuff, and came out, crossed the finish line, come around the corner. My mom's there, and she holds up a 5 and a 2, and I'm like, 7th? No freaking way! And I'm super pumped because I knew that I made it in from that. So that was the big feat of the weekend. And why? Because it needed to happen, right? I needed to get 9th or greater. Now, the people that I beat in that race, in that 25 plus race where I was giving it everything I had, everyone behind me in that race was pretty much the 4 people in front of me in the 30 plus race. So this is how funny, my wisdom, I guess I'll call it, over the years has kind of become in the sport of racing is, in my 30 plus class, I knew I could very safely ride in 5th place and not take any unnecessary risk, right? 4th through 1st place were right in front of me when I was in 5th place, right? You're talking 5 to 7 seconds in front of me, right? So I knew if I amped it up, I could have gotten towards the front of that 30 plus pack. But I chose not to. I chose to reduce risk. I chose to focus on the main thing, keeping the main thing, which is just getting out of there and qualifying. And that's what I did. And when I came off, my mom held up her hand. She gave me a 5. I didn't know I was in 5th. It's very hard to count while your heart rate is at 180 beats a minute and you're hitting 100-foot jumps. It's very hard to mathematically to do any math when your brain is in that state of mind. But she gave me a 5. I knew I made it in, and we were out of there in a matter of seconds. So meaning we had everything packed up. My race was done at 3:40 p.m. and we were out of the parking lot of the track by 3:47 p.m. I mean, we had everything packed up so that we could make good time on our way home. And, it's, then we drove 6 hours back, got home pretty late on Sunday night, still made really good time. But it was just such a great lesson for me, which is like the biggest thing that I keep working on is, detaching from ego, right? Ego would have said I needed to win that, 30 plus race, right? Which I knew I was capable of, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was not to win. The goal was to qualify, because I don't get a damn thing if I win that race. I mean, maybe a trophy, but I'm not doing this for a freaking trophy. I'm doing this for the long-term goal of qualifying for nationals, right? So imagine if I did go and try and win that race, pushed myself out of my comfort zone a little bit, made a mistake, got injured, and then I can't even race regionals at all. I can't even race the national at all. How pissed would I have been at myself if I did something like that? So, what's funny is when I was 17, 16 years old racing, I never thought about injury prevention, ever. And yet now, it's the number one priority in what I do. Why? Well, I'll give you an example. Last season, okay, I came back into the sport and I had multiple injuries last season. Why? I rushed in. Okay. My first race back, my first legitimate race back was the weekend before the regional championship. Okay. So my first legit race back was right before the regional, right? Meaning I gave myself basically 1 week of preparation. It was stupid. It was way too rushed. And of course I didn't qualify, right? And I made a ton of mistakes along the way. I gave myself a big bruise. I, bruised my knee. I broke my hand. I had a ton of back-to-back things happen, right? And I thought about quitting. I mean, obviously, I have a ton of other stuff going on. I don't have to do this. I mean, right? I'm not making any money doing this sport. I'm doing it because it's something I love. And I definitely had the thought of quitting many, many times. And then I realized part of the reason I've had the injuries that I did last year is because I rushed into it. And I am not, because I've been constantly, I mean, the trend of what I've been doing when I come back into racing is I take like 2 years off and then I come in and I try and win something, and I give myself like an unreasonable timeline, like 4 months on the bike. And then I just want to win this big championship. And then I don't win it because I didn't give myself enough time. Right. And then I get discouraged and then I stop riding for another 2 years. And that was the trend literally for like the past 4 times I got back in the riding. Is I got into it for 4 to 6 months, set an unreasonable deadline, then stopped for 1.5 to 2 years, then got back into it again, gave myself an unreasonable timeline to do something. And this is the first time in over 10 years I've given myself slowness. I give myself the ability to learn from all of last season's lessons and to apply those lessons this season, right? And since I've done that, I've been tremendously more consistent. I may not be as aggressive as I was last season, but who cares? You can't be aggressive if you're injured, right? So this is a great lesson about maturity and, really just that ego detachment and not really caring about the result as much, just really caring about you adhering to your own personal guidelines of what excellent technique really is. And that's why I think like the lessons that I take away from this sport are so, it's almost like a practice of stoicism. Like, why would I put myself through this level of sacrifice, driving 6 hours each way to an Ohio race for a one-day race, to putting myself through, I burned 4,000 calories in one day on top of my baseline, on top of 2,500 baseline. So what's that? 6,500 calories burned in one day. Combine the day before that, that's another 5,000. You're talking close to, 11,000 total calories burned in 2 days, right? Massive energy exertion, massive time exertion doing the round trip travel there and back. Why? Because adversity and challenge and difficulty is, for me, it's like the only way to find true happiness, because happiness only occurs in contrast, right? If you were perpetually happy, you would be perpetually sad. What do I mean by that? If someone were to just inject a happiness drug in you all the time and you just were elated all the time, you never had any struggles in your life, you never conquered anything, everything just went perfect for you, constant, 24/7, 365. If that was your life, you would be one of the most sad people living. Why? Because triumph over challenge, over hard times, is what gives you context in which to be happy, right? If, when you see the reaction that people have when they win the Super Bowl, you see grown men cry at a level you've never seen before. When someone wins the NBA Finals, right? When someone wins a championship of epic proportions, right? Like, you see this, it makes me almost get teary-eyed thinking about this. I remember when I was maybe 15 years old. And I remember when I came up one spot short of qualifying for nationals at a regional qualifier. And I cried in my dad's arms like I've never cried before. I bawled my eyes out. I thought I failed. I thought all the work we put in, resulted in failure. 2 weeks later, we get a phone call while my mom, my dad, and I are all at home saying, "Hey, Bill, someone dropped out and you're being selected to race at the national." I remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember where I was sitting. I remember both my parents crying and hugging me and saying everything we did worked. And the amount of joy and fulfillment and emotion that comes from moments like that, where you get this little blip of payoff for years of difficulty, struggle, and preparation, right? That's why I think a lot of successful people say that they're in love with the chase. They're in love with the pursuit. As soon as the pursuit stops, their motivation stops, right? And I want pursuits. I want pursuits in my life, right? I want to have pursuits in my relationship with my wife. I want to have pursuits in my relationship with Cammie, my daughter. I want to have pursuits in my personal activities that I love. I want to have pursuits in business, because in the absence of a pursuit, motivation vanishes, happiness vanishes, clarity vanishes. It's harder to make decisions on what's right, what's wrong, when you don't know what your priorities are, when you're not chasing anything. We need to chase something in everything that we do. And want what you want is one of the best things I've learned from some mentors of mine. Wanting what you want, something that Dan Sullivan taught me a long time ago. It's okay to want what you want. Like, if I want to do X, I don't have to justify it to anyone. We get one life. If I want something, I'm allowed to want to do whatever I want to do. That's part of being in a free country, right? And oftentimes we feel we need to justify all of our wants. We need to explain to someone else why we want this, why we want that. And this whole concept around conquering adversity really reminds me of, which I've been talking about. It's so funny. And like every single podcast, adversity, the word has popped up for me, because that's where happiness is discovered, is on the other side of adversity. That's where the word that comes to my mind is fulfillment. I don't just want happiness. I want deep spiritual fulfillment. I want to know that the things that are important to me, I pursued. The things that I gave my absolute best to the things that were important to me, right? That's what fulfillment is. It doesn't mean that every day is happy. It doesn't mean that every day is perfect. It doesn't mean that every day is, this fantasy of getting injected a happiness drug in your bloodstream every single day. No, that's quite frankly the opposite of fulfillment, right? In order to be fulfilled, there must have been a period of time where you were not filled, right? Where you were not filled with joy, enthusiasm, positivity. So you are fulfilled with depth around the thing that gives you joy, right? So seeking fulfillment, I think, is one of the number one battle cries for me in 2025 and beyond. And, this weekend I could have sat on my sofa. I did not need to do a third region. I didn't have to go out to this qualifier. I already qualified in 2 other regions. I didn't have to do this. I wanted to do this, though. I wanted the challenge. I entered Monday morning tired as shit, okay? I didn't enter Monday morning jumping off walls. I entered Monday morning tired as shit, but fulfilled as shit, right? Knowing I gave my all, and I'm going to give my all during this work week, just like I did during the weekend. And I'm going to give my all to this is going to be a family weekend this weekend. I'm going to give my all to my wife, my daughter, my dog this weekend. When I spend time with them, I want to be known for giving it my all, right? In the things that are important. And adversity is going to be a minimum requirement of that. So yeah, just wanted to share some of my stories from this past weekend. I am so grateful that I get to have this fun outlet that teaches me all these life lessons, disciplines me to become a more wise person, to separate from my ego, to separate from surface level desires, to be reminded of keeping the main thing all the time. And I am just so grateful for it. And I hope you find something that gives you a similar sense of fulfillment, and that maybe you already have it. Most people do. The question is, are you honoring it? The thing that you love, are you honoring it? Are you listening to it? Are you growing from it? Because I know for sure I wasn't for quite a period of time. So that's all I got for this week. Just some fun stories from the weekend, some life talk, and I'll see you in the next episode.
If you found value in this podcast, here's one way I can help your firm right now. First, you can get our new book, Law Firm Growth Accelerator. It's everything we've learned over 10 plus years helping lawyers build thriving, profitable firms. The strategies that you'll get in this book work for any practice area and any revenue level. You can get the audiobook and ebook 100% free, or just cover the shipping and we'll send you the physical copy to you in addition to the audio and ebook. Go to smbteam.com/book to get your copy.